I could bring the dogs in. They could also bark. We could have this little menagerie happening.
We can make it a big party.
We could.
I could bring my animals and,
Let's have a party. Let's just go for it and have a party, shall we?
Absolutely. And I think that's the first thing that you've said live on our
Wow, let's have a party.
summit.
Okay.
So hello to the lovely Christina Gerakiteys.
Hello, gorgeous Michelle. How's everything going?
Going lovely, and it's such a pleasure to have you on with all of your feather collection behind you in the background. And I'm so glad that we can see it. For those that don't know, Christina collects feathers of all kinds.
Yeah.
And you can see them up above her head and in the background, and I'm sure each one of them has a beautiful story to tell in its own right.
Every one of these images is a story on its own, and feathers are from the wings of angels. So if you find particularly a white feather, there is an angel that is particularly blessing you on any given day.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some science to back that up as well.
I'm sure there is. And for those who don't know Christina, she is the co-CEO of Singularity University here in Australia, which leads her to do all sorts of adventurous things. And some of those, no doubt, you'll share with us today. One of your favourite phrases is about changing the impossible to the possible.
Yeah, and I think that's
definitely something that we want to hear more about. And the official title of your talk, if I can read my own writing, is Expanding Inwards, a Gift for the 21st Century. And I love that you are going to be focusing on going inwards. There is so much on that topic. So I will hand it over to you, Christina. Feel free to share your screen whenever you like, and we can go for it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Michelle and AJ, for actually creating this summit and for giving me the opportunity to speak. So I'm going to share screen, and I think we'll just get a nod if you've got full screen. So how's that looking for you, Michelle? All good?
Not as yet, but there is usually a fairly big delay. So
okay, so let me know when we're okay.
Okay, we'll do.
All right, we're okay.
No, I'll let you know.
Okay, so we're going to talk. I'm going to talk a bit about science and spirituality, clearly because it's a science and spirituality summit. And I have an intrinsic belief that science actually proves what we know to be true, what we hypothesize to be true, because that's where we get the idea from eventually, and that's where science, which is absolutely remarkable. And I was a non-science participator at school. I was one of those people that had a teacher that put me right off the subject for some years. When I went back to study herbal medicine some years later, I fell in love with chemistry, physiology, biology, fell in love with all of it. I just loved what science meant and how everything that exists around us is actually from science. So I'm going to take a thumbs up, Michelle, that my screen is being shared and you've got the slides.
Yep, all good.
Now we just have to find the right button to press. So a little bit about SU. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and empower leaders to apply exponential technologies to solve humanity's grand challenges. We're very much aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals, to the grand challenges. We believe in moonshots. We actually believe that anything is possible, given that we are living in the age of convergence at the moment. So we actually exist where the values of humanity intersect with the value of technology. So technology is a resource, and I find that technology very much related to, or is science, and it's coming more and more into its own around spirituality. I believe that Anuraj Gambhir, who's one of our faculty, spoke yesterday. I think you've just heard from Constantine, who has the most remarkable conscious leadership program happening, and he's part of our team as well. So very much humanity, where it intersects with the value of technology and how it all intermingles to help humans have better lives and to live more fulfilled lives. So we are living in the age of evolution, and we are evolving on many, many levels. I believe that we are also in the age of convergence. So we were at one point in time in the age of divergence. It was very much insular, siloed. People discovered things about themselves. They discovered things about different aspects, different fields. But now we're in the age of convergence, where we're putting all that together. So what does it look like when we merge different technologies like nanorobots, like computers, like artificial intelligence, when we move them all together, when they converge together, and then when we converge great minds together, when we put great minds in the same room together. And then what does it look like when we also combine the technologies with the great minds, and we look at ourselves as 4 parts: body, mind, heart, and soul. So all these things, I believe, are converging together, which means there's actually no better time to have a Science Meets Spirituality Summit. So go, you guys. Once upon a time, we were very much around IQ being everything. I think when we went to school, when you and I went to school, Michelle, it was all about IQ, and they measured your IQ and probably moved you into classes according to your IQ, even though nobody wanted to tell you what your IQ was. We are also now measuring EQ, so our emotional intelligence. We're measuring our adaptability quotient as well. So we're realizing that we're not just this one-dimensional being, that being human means to be multiple things, and it means to take on multiple roles, and it also means to accept multiple different ways of thinking. So here's my map for humanity, if you like, and I just want to run you through some of these, and even ask people that are watching this afternoon to maybe say how they're going to enhance body, enhance mind, enhance heart, and enhance soul at the appropriate times during the presentation. So the pillars of humanity are our body, mind, heart, and soul. And all of these need to be aligned for us to live in harmony and to be at one with the people that we are meant to be, the people that we are ourselves. So let's just start with body. What does it mean to be body? As you know, I've done some work with Simon Sinek, and it all was around the 3 circles: the why, the how, and the what. When I looked at this in greater detail, I actually realized that I could divide the why, the how, and the what into the 4 quadrants of the body, mind, heart, and soul. And there were equal components that made the whole thing come together better. So for me, body is our own physical body. It's also the environment. It's also energy out there, and what we do with that energy and what we do with our body. So if we have a look at the body, it's made up of everything that we put into it. When we actually decided that what we put into our body was not how our body responded, I'm not sure, but very much aligned with what we feed the body is what we produce with our bodies. So we're very much around the physical in the body. It's our physical activity. It's the way we run, the way we walk, whether we do yoga, etc. It's the nutrition elements of what we put in every day and how that operates within our systems. And it's also all the different medical components. And I'm not sure, and I don't know enough to be more specific than I'm about to be, but they just did released some tests from overseas this week that actually prove that oxygen, when you oxygenate the body, it can actually reverse the aging process. So there's people like Ray Kurzweil, like Peter Diamandis, who have been working on longevity for quite some time and reversing that whole aging process. And to the point where we're looking at what it might be like to live to be 120, 130, 140, but have healthy body and healthy mind. So what might that look like? We are just at the pioneering front of that. That's a topic that actually scares a lot of people. And it's something that we really do need to have many discussions about. And there are people that will go, I don't want to live that long ever. And there are people that will very much take that on if they can live healthy, productive lives where they are contributing to society around that time, in all that time. So I'm going to ask everybody, what will you do to enhance your body? So if we know that it's all around, it's all around what we do physically, what the nutritional value of the food that we eat is, what is it that you can do to enhance your body? Because body, mind, heart, and soul are all completely interrelated. So we need a healthy body in order to have a healthy mind, a healthy heart, and a healthy soul. So what is it that you will do?
I'm happy to answer that, Christina. Yep. If you ask me, that's what I would say is a focus on plant-based eating, and whether or not you choose to be vegetarian is a different issue, but reducing your meat intake and increasing your plant-based intake is what I choose to do in that area.
And if you talk to, so we just recently ran an executive program and we had Uncle Paul Gordon come and speak at that program. And if you have a look at the diets of Indigenous tribes around the globe, they would eat meat very infrequently. So there would be a kill on a full moon or for a celebration or, you know, for some aspect that was quite ritualistic. There would be a kill, they would eat meat then. At other times, most of the other times, they would eat grains and food that was grown from the land. So very much the kind of diet that we're talking about. And also our intestines are very long. And if you have a look at carnivores' intestines, they're very short and their stomachs have high acidic. So really, we're not meant to eat. We're physiologically not built to eat a lot of meat. But our diet has changed over the years. I do believe that it's changing back. And there are aspects of diet now that very much affect how your mind operates and has this long-going, long-lasting effect on the body. So what is it that you can do to enhance your body? Here are some of the things, the devices that people are now using to enhance body. So in the top screen, you've got the Oura Ring, and it measures sleep. So it actually tells you how many hours sleep you have. It measures the quality of sleep. It measures your REM. It measures your deep sleep. And it can have an effect on your mental preparation for sleep. It also has an effect on how you might adjust your sleeping habits. So I can tell you that I am absolutely horrified at my sleeping habits, and that's one of the things that the Oura Ring is helping me to advance. I'm sure Anuraj and Constantine both measured or both spoke about a lot of these things. With meditation, we've got Calm apps, we've got the Muse, we've got different devices. So we're actually incorporating technology into helping our bodies function and making us aware of our bodies functioning at different levels. And food, again, so the future of food, we're talking longevity. If we talk longevity, potentially there's lots more people on the planet, and how are we going to feed those people on the planet? And it's really important to understand that as one thing advances, so does another aspect of our lives. So if we're looking at longevity, and then we go, well, how are we going to feed everyone on the planet? We can't even feed people on the planet now. What if people are living longer? We're looking at things like vertical farming already. It's already happening. There are grasses being grown on mist within warehouses, particularly in the Bronx in New York City. I went to have it, not recently, clearly nobody's been in New York, or I have been in New York City recently, but, you know, visited a warehouse in the Bronx in New York City, and they were growing grasses, different, you know, they were alfalfa, they were cos lettuces, different lettuce, different greens basically, and they were being fed on mist. So it was something like 99% less water was being used to grow these foods. The other thing around these foods was, because they were grown in a city center in this warehouse in the Bronx, the carbon emissions traveling from the farms were greatly reduced. The freshness was incredible because it was going within a certain radius into the takeaway stores within a certain area from the warehouse. So there's all these other benefits that we come across when everything is intermingled, everything converges, everything affects everything else. So we actually call that the first order, second order consequences, and we'll get into that in a minute. This is a tricorder. It was an X Prize device that people were dared to create a device that if it could scan the body and it would identify diseases better than 12 specialists. So it didn't quite make the target that it wanted to. It can identify 7 diseases by kind of just waving it in front of you. But what that is going to do for home health, etc., and to give us that peace of mind. Some people it will give peace of mind. Other people it could create more anxiety. These are all ethical discussions that need to be had. But body is very much topical in how we're going to be relating to our heart, our mind, and our soul as we go forward. Nanobots, these little nano robots, they reckon are around 10 years away, and they're going to target, they'll be able to target medicines to specific cells within our bodies. And what that will do for disease, which we'll talk about in a moment, will be quite remarkable. And we'll be able to use our toilets to figure out what our metabolic rate is, what nutritional value our food is, what other things we're going to need to help our bodies. And what all these things do is it puts more and more responsibility for our health, the health of our bodies, into our hands. So it makes us, again, masters of our own destiny. So if we move from body, because if we have a healthy body, we more than likely have a healthy mind. And the mind is very much around thinking and around strategy, but it's also around what do we stand for? So what is it that we want to achieve? What things around the planet do we want to make feel better? And how are we going to do that? So okay, I'm not sure why I hit the same button and now it doesn't work. Let's just try that again. Okay. All right, let's see why it's stuck.
I can see mind on my screen.
Yeah, so can I, and I can't, for some reason, I'm having difficulty progressing. Let's see if I can move it forward. Doesn't want to move forward. I might need to exit and come back in.
Yeah, just unshare and then reshare.
Okay, here we go. We're going to share again and see if we, no, still not moving forward. This will be interesting. Love it when technology works. That's one of my favorite sayings.
That's right.
It really doesn't want to move. So, okay, here we go. All right, mind. I'm not sure which button I hit differently, but let's go with it. So a healthy mind leads to a healthy heart, leads to a healthy soul. So what is it about our mind? So mind, these, and I know that you had Charlotta on. So mind is very much around meditation. It's around breathing. It's around calming the mind. The future of jet lag, we believe, is actually Zoom fatigue. So how is the mind structured? How do we take care of our minds? How does the sleep that our body gets, the food that our body gets, relate to the mind and how our mind works? Again, we've got devices like the Muse, we've got vision boards. So I can't tell you the number of people that have created a vision board and had the vision that they've created come true. And I'll just give you a very quick example. So a couple of years ago, when Lisa and I were talking about bringing Singularity into Australia and wanting to be speakers at Singularity events, there was a recess. So there was a break during one of the global summits that we were at. We jumped up on the stage and we started visioning ourselves performing on stage. 12 months later, almost to the day, we were on the stage performing. So I cannot tell you the power of the mind, the power of the vision board, and why we should all be using it constantly. So again, Michelle, you might want to answer this question. What do you do? Because I know you do. It's not what will you do? I know you do. What do you do to enhance your mind? So how do we share some of that with your listeners? What do you do to enhance your mind?
So the ones you've mentioned, every year myself and my kids do a vision board and a list of our goals, and then those vision boards and goals get put up on our bedroom doors so that you can constantly see them as you're walking in.
Yep.
And then the primary mind one that I do is daily meditation.
Yeah. And so do you meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour? What's your meditation process?
It varies between 10 minutes and an hour. There's so many things that add up to that variable, but yeah,
like school lunches. But so I have to share with you and with anybody listening something that the Dalai Lama said, because I would meditate, but I could never get that stillness. You know, everyone goes, oh, you still your mind and it'll all go blank and you'll just have this blankness and it'll all be very quiet. And it didn't matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop the noise, couldn't stop the white noise in my head, couldn't stop that voice that keeps talking. Anyway, I was listening to, I was at an event where the Dalai Lama was, and the host said to him, how do you quiet your mind? How do you stop all that noise? And he went, oh, I don't. He said, I can't do that. I just close my eyes and let whatever passes pass through. And I thought, well, if that's good enough for the Dalai Lama, it's certainly good enough for me. So it was really interesting that sometimes our preconceived notion of what a meditation might be may not necessarily be true. I also spoke to somebody who took a vow of silence and lived in vow of silence for 20 years. And that for them was quite remarkable. It was a very easy thing for them to do, but I had a girlfriend who went and tried to do it for a whole weekend, and she just went, it drove me crazy. But I think there must be a barrier point. But the point of it is to say, that it's all different. It's different for everybody, and one person's right and one person's rule may not be the same thing that's required for somebody else. So what will you do to enhance your mind? We've been there. So let's move into heart, because heart is crucial to our purpose in life. It's our kindness, it's our compassion. And I believe we're actually living in a heart space at the moment. So with COVID-19, and we'll talk about the acceleration of the acceleration in a minute, but with COVID-19, what we're seeing is a lot of polarity, and we're seeing a lot of divisiveness. So if we look, we're finding many examples of kindness and compassion. So whether it's people that are feeding people, or whether it's, so we had a note dropped into our letterbox from a group of young people that lived in the area, that dropped a note into everybody's letterbox and said, here's what our names are, here's our mobile phone numbers. If you are elderly, or if you get sick, or if you need any help, please call this number. And that happened in my, in my neighborhood. And there's been plenty of examples of kindness shown to people all around the world. And we've all seen the clips of people serenading each other off Italian balconies, or people feeding each other on the streets of New York, and people consoling each other, talking to each other, helping each other. The nurses that have been sitting with people that have been dying in hospitals because their relatives aren't allowed in. So there's many acts of kindness and compassion. And one of the exercises that I often like to do with different cohorts is to say, if you can just, so, okay, Michelle, do this with me.
Yeah.
How many people in your life have intentionally set out to harm you? I don't want a number. I'm going to ask you for an example in a minute, but how many people in your life, if you can just add them up, have intentionally set out to harm you?
Oh, you don't want me to say it out loud?
No, can you count them on more than one hand? Like, do you have one hand's worth?
No, zero. I would say zero.
Zero intentionally.
Yeah.
Well, that is quite remarkable. Normally the response is one hand. I can count them on one hand, and that's it. If I go, how many people can count them on two hands? I might get one hand go up out of 100, 150. So if I say to you, how many people have intentionally set out to help you in your life? What would you say? How many people have intentionally set out to help you in your life?
Thousands. Yeah.
So, and this is the normal response that I get. So the moral to the story is there are many more good people in the world than bad. Sometimes it appears that the bad people have the louder voices. And that's why I think also at the moment, in this age of accelerated awakening, we also have people standing up and standing out and speaking out right now that potentially may never have spoken out before. So it's remarkable how we're seeing, even just in the US, how more and more people turned out to vote. More and more people are thinking with their hearts, they're feeling with their hearts, and there's an increased kindness and compassion. And even if you disagree with somebody for whatever reason, for their political alliances or for things that they've done, there's this kindness and compassion mostly coming through. There's also some violence coming through, but the violence and the polarity of that, the polarizing effect of that, has actually made other people step back and go, hey, is this really the world that we want to leave for our children? So we fed the body, and we've got a healthy body, and we've fed it nutritional substance, we've given it exercise, we've created a healthy mind, and there's lots and lots of evidence with the mind about the people that you hang with. If you're thinking about more positive things and your whole attitude is more positive, your body is in a healthier state. And your heart, how does your heart react to all of this? How does your heart take on and show compassion and love? And the people with the greater patience, the people with the healthier bodies, are the ones that tend to show the greatest kindness and the greatest compassion, because they've set up the whole system to work like that. So, if you have a crabby night and you're not feeling really good, or, you've been ill, and you notice that you're more short-tempered, and you notice that you're not as kind in the things that you say. So, heart. With the heart, we need to show up as our true selves, and there's an increased demand, I think, for people to show up with truth, with transparency, with authenticity. So show up to being your true self. And I know once upon a time, we would have discussions around people having different personas when they were at work or at home, or whether they were with their in-laws or their friends. People would show up differently. What we're asking people to do now is to show up as their true selves, as their heartfelt self. Because as we know, disease is actually the word dis-ease, and Louise Hay did a lot of work in this field, and actually could classify a lot of the emotions and a lot of the heart so when the heart was angry, potentially there was a lot more liver damage. When the heart was in fear, the body was in fear, there was a lot more kidney damage. So she did some remarkable work in identifying centers of emotions that were dis-eased in the body, and how diseases would manifest themselves, or disease would manifest itself in a diseased body. And also our relationships. So the relationships that we have are very crucial to the way that we act, to our health. So we know that if somebody, so we've done this experiment as well, we've kind of looked at someone and gone, hey, what's wrong? You don't quite look yourself today. How are you? You don't look great. What's going on? And all of a sudden, if you like, don't do it because it's a really awful exercise to do, and I don't really do it anymore, but you would watch people drop. So just from what you were emitting with your words and the senses around your face and everything else, you could actually make somebody, their whole body drop. So that is something that we need to be very mindful about. So how we treat other people is often how things are reflected in their behaviors. And senses. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of senses that are in our lives at the moment, from the cars beeping to lights changing, etc. Senses are going to become more and more a part of our lives, to the point where artificial intelligence will also be able to read, and can already do it actually. They can already read when we are diseased. And they can already read when we're anxious, and because they look for different eye movements, and they look for different body manifestations. So AI can already read whether our heart rate is going up. So, we've got the watches, or the, what are the other ones called? So I've got an Apple Watch, the other one, what's the Garmin's, and everything in between that can actually read your heart rate. And now Apple's got a watch that can read your oxygen levels within your body. So all these things are measuring how we're looking, how we're feeling, and how our bodies are behaving. So if I said to you, what will you do to enhance your heart? So again, I'm going to say to you, Michelle, what do you do to enhance your heart, to enhance your relationships? What is it that you would say?
I do a whole bunch of volunteer work for different organizations and different people. And then the other one is I just love hanging out with my family, and that's really good for my heart.
Yep. And we know that if we're giving, it sets off a lot more oxytocin and a lot more feel-good hormones in our body than when we're receiving. And the other thing we also have measured scientifically is the tears that we cry through happiness have a different chemical makeup to the tears we cry through sadness and anger. And a lot of the tears that we cry through anger have traces of arsenic in them. So when we say be happy or don't be angry because you're poisoning yourself, a lot of these sayings actually have their truth in experiences that have been handed down from generations as well. Our ancestors knew a lot more than what we actually sometimes give them credit for. So let's go into soul, because there's a lot of things coming out now around the soul. I think it was 1907, there was a gentleman that tried to measure what the soul actually weighed. Science has come and said that his experiments weren't carried out correctly. There were some numbers thrown around that the soul actually measured 42 ounces at one point in time, and I think that's where they got the meaning of life was 42, but I'm not sure about that one. And this is something potentially that could be an experiment that comes back into the forefront. But the soul, it is that X factor. So we call things the X factor within our bodies, or not just within our bodies, but we call things the X factor. Where does the X factor come from? So we actually believe that the soul is a knowing and believing part of us. It is where execution gathers its strength. So the soul is the connectivity that we have. At singularity, people sometimes say to us, well, what do you mean by the singularity? And there's a traditional view of the singularity, which is where consciousness is uploaded into the cloud. And I would actually argue with people that every time you turn on a device, every time you look at your phone, whatever, you are uploading part of your consciousness into the cloud. But for me, the singularity is us coming together as one humanity. So you can see glimpses of it at the moment. So at the moment, we're seeing people operating as single units, but we're also seeing people gather together and forming tribes, forming organizations, communities that are banding together and working together. And I have this this theory that many years ago, when we lived in tribes, people each had a place in that tribe, and it may not have been your chosen place, so it may not have been something that you wanted really badly to do, but you were given a place, you had a role, you were part of a community. And again, we had at the executive program, we had Uncle Paul Gordon come and speak, and he was talking about Aboriginal law, LORE, and what they would do if somebody broke the law. And often it was a young person who would be taken away by an elder and shown kindness and compassion and explained what the right thing to do was. And if they were a repeat offender, the punishment escalated. So, but everybody within those tribes had a place, they had a function, they had a sense of belonging, and they had a community that shrouded them in love and protected them. And then we went through this era more recently where everything was all about me. So it was what I want to do, what I want to achieve, how do I want to be, me. It's all about me. And I believe that what we're doing is actually phasing out of that, and we're moving from a me into more a we mentality. And I'm sure there's quite a few people that you've had on the summit for, today and yesterday that have used that me, we language association. But we are moving more into a we. So all you have to do is look at what's happening in the world around climate change, and more people are having discussions around the ethics of artificial intelligence and robotics. And there's more and more people talking about refugees, and there's more people taking on causes. So it might be Save a Shark, or it might be education in Ethiopia. There's more and more people that are thinking collectively about our whole human community. And I believe that we're now in an era where we are allowed to develop that USP, where we are allowed to go, hey, this is the unique gift that I bring to the planet and I bring into my community at this point of my life, at this point of time. And that's how I'm going to contribute to community, to the globe, to local, to whatever level of community that is. And because we can find our tribes globally, everybody can find a place within that tribe. So the soul connection, that soul, that sense of satisfaction, that sense of commitment, that sense of belonging, that is actually separated, hopefully, from the ego, because we are learning how to disassociate from everything is all about me to what is it that I can give out? What is it that's going to make me of service to community? So I truly believe that where we're heading with body, mind, heart, and soul is an outward facing place in a society where what we really want to do is make life better for everybody. And I actually believe that we are the exponential beings. So people talk about exponential, particularly at Singularity, and we talk about exponential all the time. And one of the jokes around COVID, not that COVID's funny, but one of the jokes around COVID is that we will never have to explain what an exponential curve is ever again, because everybody has seen the maps now. But what I also believe is that we are exponential beings, because we are the beings that are moving as fast as everything is moving, because we have no choice but to move that fast. And we are actually creating the exponential change. So we are the ones that are using AI and using nanorobots, and we're the ones that are using artificial intelligence. So we're the ones that are figuring out how to use this, how to make a computer go faster, how we get more functionality out of our phones. So at the same time that we are these exponential beings where everything is going faster and faster, we are also in a period of time where there is an exponential rise in yoga, in meditation, in breathing, in mindfulness. And for me, that's very intentional because everything moves at a similar pace. So there's an exponential rise in how to stay calm, in devices that are going to help us stay calm, and in communities that will help us stay calm in order for us to live in the moment, because living in the moment is the only way we're going to deal with the exponential technology and the exponential change that is happening. Who would have thought 12 months ago, although 12 months ago the first COVID case had been diagnosed, and we knew that COVID existed, but we had no idea we were going to go into a pandemic. But who would have thought that humans could adapt so quickly and so instantly as we have over the last 12 months? And I think what's really important is that we are the exponential beings, and we are kept in a state of okayness, or whatever you want to call it, by the other things that are rising exponentially, like the yoga, the breathing, the meditation, etc. So there is a reason all these things are happening at the one time. So again, Michelle, and I'm also going to ask Padma Kumar, because, and I'm dreadfully sorry because I'm absolutely sure I did not say your name right, but what is it that you do, or what will you do to enhance your soul? What is it that you do weekly, monthly, daily? What kind of rituals do you have to enhance your soul?
I would put that in client work, because for me, connecting to people at a really deep level and helping to support them to transform their world is soulful work. So I would say every time I connect to a client in that way.
Awesome, amazing. So it's that connection. So, and Padma Kumar, and I really want you to help me say your name correctly, says to think kind, and it's that thinking kind thoughts that affects the soul. So the kindness comes from the heart and it permeates the body, and that's where we get the kindness transferring outward to other humans. So thank you. Yes, if we can all just think kind, how amazing would that be if we actually had a planet that operated on unconditional love and on kindness and compassion and respect, so that we could actually disagree on something, but if the majority said, hey, well, you know, the majority are going with this, even though it's not my favorite philosophy, my favorite mentality, whatever, I'll support it because I'm a member of this community, and that's what a community does. So if we all had, and this is why ethical conversations right now are super important. What kind of planet, what kind of life do we want to leave our children? So all we hear at the moment is the debt that we're leaving our children because governments are spending so much money. I've got to tell you, if the governments weren't spending money, there'd be a lot more hardship on the streets right now. And one of the interesting, so let's just go back. We're going to dive into the mind for a second. We were talking to some of our colleagues at Deloitte, and Nikki Hutley was telling us that with all the complaints about JobKeeper and JobSeeker and all this money, and people won't go and apply for a job, blah blah blah, in the current way that things are panning out with the pandemic, it is the people that are earning $60,000 and less that are spending 60% more than what they spent pre-COVID, which is money that's keeping the economy buoyant. The people that are earning over $120,000 a year are apparently, according to the studies, spending 40% less than they were before. So it is this money that's going around the economy that's being spent at the moment that is buoying everything up, and why Australia's figures actually don't look too bad compared to some of the figures that are coming out from the rest of the world. So if we think in terms of community, and if we think in terms of support, and if we think in terms of giving, they are really remarkable tools and incredible tools that will help us out of the situation that we're currently in. But let's just talk for a second about the acceleration of the accelerated awakening. So there's lots and lots of things that have been awakened by COVID. So where retail was kind of, you know, it was doing this slow dance into a different type of existence, COVID came on, right, retail, rethink yourself. What's happening? All of a sudden we've got less stores open, but we've got many more deliveries. And this is where people kind of go, well, isn't this where technology is bad? And we go, is it? Because technology has taken away potentially, or it's not technology that took it away, it's a pandemic, took away the physicality of maybe going to a shopping mall, but has allowed people to shop online and allowed for delivery and things like that. So how is it that, again, with the acceleration of the accelerated awakening, education, all of a sudden we went, hey, people can't go to school, we're going to have to take school online, which may not be great for people that live in cities, but boy, did it actually make education better for some of the people in remote areas. So it's kind of done this crazy dance. And now hopefully what we'll do is not return to normal, but what we'll do is we'll learn all the lessons from the accelerated awakening. And what we will do is find some kind of balance where that connectivity that people have been working on, so that people all over the planet have connectivity all the time, will take over. And if we do that, the education capacity for people in third world countries is quite remarkable. Health, whoever would have thought so much red tape to cut through previously to do online consultations, and now people are going, hey, you don't need to come into the surgery, let's do an online consultation. So, and what that also means is that we can use drones and we can do phone consultations with people in remote areas. And these are things that had started happening, but have now been accelerated. And this is what happens when you get the unification of the body, mind, heart, and soul, and you actually get the unification of the science with what we know to be true and what we know has to happen in order for us to progress to the next level. So everything is interrelated. And this is one of my favorite sayings. So science proves what we already know to be true, or what we already propose to be true. And my favorite story around this is, and so with science, we come up with a hypothesis. We see something, we come up with a hypothesis, and then we set out to prove it. By whatever experiment it is, we set out to prove it. And I remember when I was working as a herbalist, and a study came out that said, hey, chamomile, it's a great nervine and it's a good digestive and it's really good for all these conditions. And I went, my grandmother knew that 50 years ago, 40 years ago, because my grandmother, when we were little, used to feed us chamomile. So my 5 cousins, 5 of us would get together. What I now know was holiday babysitting, but we thought we were having an amazing holiday with our first cousins because they lived in Canberra, we lived in Newcastle, we all went to Sydney. And my grandmother at the end of the day would give us chamomile tea to calm us down, to get us ready for bed, to put us, get us to sleep and have this calmness at the end of the day. So my grandmother knew that chamomile was a really good herb as a carminative. She also knew if we had a tummy ache that chamomile would work. And she knew this because 50 years earlier, when she was living on a tiny Greek island, this is what she was taught. And these are the laws that are passed down through spirituality, through different tribal systems and through generations as they come. So science proves what we propose to be true. So we have to have that hypothesis. We have to have that idea before we can actually set out to prove it. And I think science is going to prove a lot of things. And I want to show everybody this quick portion of this, and then I'll talk about it.
Just so you know, Christina, people are saying that they love that quote, science proves what we already propose to be true, and talking about rethinking how we do everything.
Thank you. So I'm just going to stop the share again because I need to backtrack the presentation and hope that I can get it to go backwards. Yes, I can. Okay, now let's see if I can get it to play.
We can't see the screen.
You can't see it?
No.
Oh. I know why you can't see it, because I've stopped sharing my screen. Sorry, let me just go back. Okay. Oh, can I say I love technology when it works one more time? Okay, let me
be your mantra.
share this. Okay, share. All right, what can you see? Can you see it now?
I can.
Can you see a violin?
Not yet.
Sorry, a cello?
No, not yet.
Okay, we'll just give it a sec.
Okay, I can now see.
Is it dark?
Oh, it's fine. It just looks like a clip. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to go into that again. Sorry, because it's not doing what it's meant to be doing. Okay. Sorry, everybody.
All right, you'll figure it out, I'm sure.
Maybe. Okay, let's just do this one more time. So I'm experiencing a grayed out screen right now. So I'm just going to reload, maybe. Okay, just bear with me. I'm sorry, everybody, but it will be worth it. So I'm going to tell you the story as I'm reloading it. So what the clip that you're about to see, there's an amazing Australian doctor by the name of Dr. Jordan Nguyen, and he has done incredible work with technology. What you're about to see is his work with a remarkable young lady called Jessica Irwin. And Jessica Irwin has cerebral palsy, and Jessica has a musical ear like you wouldn't believe, and she has a musical gift, and all she wanted to do was play music and compose music. So he worked with her. You'll see a mandala type image on an iPad, and that is what Jordan created for her so that she could play music with her eyes. Okay, so she plays the music that you're about to hear. She helped co-write this, and she is playing it with her eyes. So let me know when you've got the screen.
Okay, it's not yet.
Okay. And the clip, we'll just pick up the clip from wherever it is right now.
Okay.
But notice Jessica. And
yeah, we can see it now.
Yeah, now you're probably looking at
someone with a cello. Yep.
Yep. But every time I click it to play it, here we go. Can you see this?
Yep.
All right. So this is Jessica and the remarkable Jordan Nguyen, who has one of the biggest heart and souls. And that's Steve Balby from Noiseworks, who she co-wrote the song with. So what you saw was Jessica actually playing the instrument with her eyes, which is quite a remarkable feat. So Michelle, I'm just going to ask you what you can see right now, because I think I've taken the screen off again. Can you see?
Yeah, just the end of the clip with her playing the violin.
Okay, so what I want you to see is this now. Can you see? Okay, beautiful.
And the boat. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I, for some reason, can't go into presenter mode. I'm having a great time with technology here, but let's go. We're going to get through this. So also, I just want to tell you another story about science and eventually science proving what will be true. So anecdotally, on this little Greek island, there was a pest problem, and they sprayed the island with pesticide and they killed all the pests. In killing all the pests, the birds vacated the island, or they died, because they either died from the poison that killed the pests, or they vacated because there wasn't anything else for them to eat, which meant that the vegetation wasn't dropped around the island. Worse than that, however, was a certain amount of time later, there was an increase in estrogenic cancers on the island. And anecdotally, what they've put that down to at this point of time is that on this island, the well water is used to wash fruit and vegetables, to water gardens, to wash dishes, to wash clothes. So what they propose is that what's happened is that the estrogenic properties in the pesticides have led to the estrogenic cancers. And they believe that shortly they will probably be able to prove that this has actually happened. So science anecdotally will catch up. But there was an increase in number of deaths from breast cancers and prostate cancers on this island, which was quite tragic. And, you know, something that people just, you don't ever want to repeat that. So whatever we can learn. And this, so part of the whole message around the body, mind, heart, and soul sits within here. So what is the purpose? What is our purpose for being here? Why are we here? How is it that we're here to serve humanity? And I believe this is where we now are able to find where those unique talents and everything lie in order to better serve humanity. So I just want to show you this quick clip as well.
We are going to build the wall.
I stand for love.
I stand for peace.
I stand for unity,
Education.
the environment,
Equality. I stand for refugees.
In an age of dangerous politics, don't let bullies force you to sit down.
to tell you you're being too political or unpatriotic,
When you speak your truth.
To tell you you can't stand tall.
or that you don't belong here. Speak out, rise up,
Unite.
and to those who dare to stand,
So this is very much where passion and purpose come to the fore. And this is why we need to be very mindful of what we're doing. And a couple of things to just to close with around where the globe sits for me on body, mind, heart, and soul. In a round table, purpose of a corporation, the 1997 version of their manifesto was, the paramount duty is to the corporation's stockholders. And what happened some years later, almost 20 years later, is this. So the new manifesto in 2019 says, we commit to delivering value to our customers, investing in our employees, dealing fairly and ethically with our suppliers, supporting the communities in which we work, and generating long-term value for shareholders. So the shareholder went from the top of the ideology to being replaced by the humans that live at the top of that chain first. So the other thing that happened this year at the World Economic Forum with the Davos Manifesto came out, and they said that a company is more than an economic unit generating wealth. It fulfills human and societal aspirations as part of the broader social system. Performance must be measured not only on the return to shareholders, but also on how it achieves its environmental, social, and good governance objectives. So we're moving more into what it means to be a global citizen. Corporate global citizenship requires a company to harness its core competencies, its entrepreneurship skills and relevant resources in collaborative efforts with other companies and stakeholders to improve the state of the world. So what we're looking at is business. And I know that you do a lot of work in this field where businesses now have a social impact, social bottom line, and that's where we're heading to. So hopefully what we're looking at is with the whole connection of body, mind, heart and soul, and the whole spiritual experience, and the things that, remember, science is a measurement. So the things that science is measuring is all leading us into creating better economic situations for the globe and creating better outcomes for people all over the planet. And we look at the planet now and we go, you know, there's a whole lot of illness and there's the pandemic and there's economic loss, etc. But if we have a look back into history, what we're finding is that we are still very much ahead of where we were, you know, even 10 years ago on the homeless front, on the poverty front. And what we realize is that we actually have the tools to be able to make a difference. So collectively, what we're doing now is making that difference. And I just want to kind of close out with 4 amazing books that have changed my body, mind, heart and soul. One of them, The Surrender Experiment. I could actually sit here and tell you a whole story about how I lived this book while I was reading it. But it's an amazing book by Michael Singer. And it's all about surrendering to the universe. And it's amazing what happens when you just be and you just let things happen. The Last Lecture is a book by Randy Pausch. He was actually asked to write as if he was delivering his last lecture. And what happened during the course of writing that last lecture was that he turned out that it was the last lecture he ever gave because he did become sick. The 4 Agreements is a really simple book about 4 amazing ways to live your life. And M-Braining is quite a remarkable book, because M-Braining proves through science that there's a head gut, a heart gut, and a brain gut, and they're all operating within us at the same time. And herbalists for years have been saying that the gut is another brain in the body, and that if you actually treat the gut and you have the gut operating properly, then there is going to be less effect of dis-ease on the rest of the body. And also the fact that if you pull out, I mean, this is going to sound gross, it's maybe not a really good image to finish on, but let's do it anyway. If you pull out the gut and you pull out the brain, they're pretty much even and they kind of look very similar as well. But let's end on a much nicer thought than that and go, all these things together, body, mind, heart, and soul, are the things that make up humanity. And if we can all exist at the pillars of love, kindness, respect, and compassion, then that is where the true science and spirituality are going to merge as one. And I'm going to stop sharing there and see if there's any questions, and say, hey, there's a bit of thinking to do from all of us, and a bit of work to do globally from all of us. So,
and I think, Christina, if I can just add to that, the thing that I like the most that you've talked about today is bringing out the holistic nature of humanity. And I love how you've taken us from a look at ourselves individually and the 4 different elements of who we are individually, straight up to organizations and talking about people, purpose, profit organizations. And I think that at some point it will become inevitable for people to believe that that's the way to do business. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're well on the way.
Well, yeah, and it's almost that 100th monkey syndrome, really, isn't it? It's when enough people have adopted it, and it does have a movement. I mean, who would have thought pre-pandemic that people would be talking about a female prime minister from a country of 5 million people, and leaders around the globe are talking about a female leader, 5 million people, and saying how remarkable her leadership is. Some of them are saying that, some of them aren't saying that, but she's leading through empathy. And they're the kind of things that you never heard of. And on the other side of that, I've heard people say, you know, the current president of the United States of America is a rat bag, but he's a great president. And in my head, I go, how can you be a great president and represent your people when you're a rat bag, when you're not a nice human? So I think we're learning, you know, here's the accelerated awakening, the awakening of the awakening, where all these things are being put in front of us so that we can make conscious decisions about where we want to go and how we want to lead as well.
Yeah. And Look, I think it's a really good opportunity to invite people into our online immersion that we have coming up on the 12th of December, because that in part is about immersing ourselves, mind, body, soul, spirit, into an experience that helps us to transform who we really are. So we would love to be able to see you there. The link for that's already gone into the feed down below. So Christina, can I just say a heartfelt, soul-felt thank you to you. You always, I can guarantee you'll always take us on a journey. And like I said before, I love that you've taken us from individual through to the collective. So thank you so much for your time and energy and expertise.
Thank you, and AJ, for putting this whole thing on to increase awareness as well. So thank you, guys.
Our pleasure. All righty. Take care, everyone. See you later.